Welcome back to the Atom Bomb and the Black Lodge and Gisela and Little Mike. We have Laura Palmer and her face that is opening. The Log Lady, Dr. Jacoby, Agent Cooper. Most of them I made myself, and it's just expanding and expanding, just like Twin Peaks. Thank you all for your questions. I am going to do my best to answer them in this video. CP is asking, have your feelings about the return changed over a year since the final episode was broadcast? Well, my feelings about the return have changed. Not that I like it more or less, but in some other ways. I think narratively it feels more like a piece if you watch it from start to the end. There's more connections when you do that, because you can watch it like that, and you couldn't do that before. You had to wait. Some scenes for me have changed, like the duration of time that some scenes took, like the sweeping scene, the infamous, I guess, sweeping scene at the Roadhouse, the French woman scene, that felt like forever, and actually the whole scene is, I think, 3.5 minutes long. So it's not that long, and it felt like, and I think it's because as viewers we were like, get on with it, we want to know everything, and now we can relax, we have some kind of confidence in what will happen some way, so we can relax a little bit and enjoy the flow in a different way, I think. The Vlog Lady, hi, like your videos, ask me, do you think there's more story yet to tell, or was that a definite ending? I think it comes down for me to the question of which characters will we have left that are key characters. Unfortunately, a lot of the key characters have passed away, like the Log Lady and Albert Rosenfield, and I think it's gonna be tougher to continue the story. I'm not like craving the fourth season. I take what I get. I'm still just really happy that we got the return to begin with. Ray Flores asks me, do you think there will be a season 4? And if so, do you think it will pick up from the timeline of Richard and Linda and Carrie Page? If there's gonna be a 4th season, I can't see it continuing with the Carrie and Richard and the Linda timeline. I feel it's gonna be more about other stuff, but who would imagine an atom bomb in Las Vegas and, you know, South Dakota for the return? So who knows? But I find it more plausible to think if there's gonna be something more, it's gonna be like a Fire Walk with Me kind of thing. Possibly a sequel of sorts to the return. If they try to make something just because of public service or something, it would be a little bit of a, you know, warning of a spin-off feel to it. So Bill Sorensen asks me, is David Lynch clinically insane, or are we for being obsessed with Twin Peaks? I could be wrong, but I think clinically insane is a legal term, so I don't think it's necessary to use in this context. I don't know about you, if you're clinically insane or not. I will answer it like this. What you forget is David Lynch's partner in crime, Mark Frost. He is very, very much into this as well, and I don't think that it's insanity. I think it's just you do what you love to do. You watch what you love to watch. If that's insanity, I don't really care. Derek asks me, what aspect of the Teresa Banks murder do you think made Gordon Cole think it was a Blue Rose case? That's a good one. There's no real answers that we can see or that are given to us within the series. What I do think for myself personally, we have seen this in The Return, and I think before as well, Gordon Cole has some kind of a, I want to call it a sixth sense. In Fire Walk with Me, he sends Sam Stanley and Shep Desmond to investigate Teresa Banks' murder before they even find the letter underneath the fingernail. But what I do notice is that you can see that she wore the ring and it's gone, like it's dirt everywhere, but not where the ring used to be. Maybe he saw that, and maybe he knows more about the ring beforehand than we did. Another possibility is his sixth sense, because as we could see in the return, he got a knock on the door and he opened it and he could see Laura Palmer looking distraught, so maybe he just knew about it. Danteween asks me, do you believe in theory that Agent Cooper actually died at the end of season 1 when shot by Josie? No, I don't. Right? No, I don't, because it doesn't make sense to me. It would make everything less interesting, I think. The next question is from Redford. What is your review of season 2? My review of season 2 is probably gonna be a better score than the average Twin Peaks fan, I think. I absolutely love pieces of season 2. There are also storylines in season 2 that feels like they are not really connected. Evelyn Marsh, not very big fan of that storyline. A lot of directors came in. On the other hand, there are amazing stuff happening in season 2 that I wouldn't want to be without. The whole intricate mythology taking place and evolving, and the lore of Twin Peaks that we know and love today. I think that Mark Frost actually is, again, a forgotten or somewhat forgotten player in this part of the story. So I do love season 2 very much. Brandon Young asks me, how do we see the Arthurian tradition play out? King Arthur and Twin Peaks, they have been connected to each other since season 2 with Glastonbury Grove and the 12 sycamore trees and the circle, like the 12 knights around the round table. I don't know if you have read my article on 25yearslatersite.com about Twin Peaks and King Arthur, where I go into detail, because obviously if you saw the return, you can see Merlin Park, Lancelot Court, Excalibur. There are several more references to King Arthur and the mythos of King Arthur in Twin Peaks The Return, which made me write this article. The link in the description, so please read that, and maybe then you will get more answers if you didn't read it already. Also, of course, you can see the chivalry and the metaphor of that kind of stuff to what Tammy Preston writes about Cooper having the white knight syndrome, trying to save the woman in need. Next question is from Water Tummies. Did you enjoy the return, or were you confused, or a little bit of both? I did enjoy it very, very much. I think that could be seen in my reaction videos, but if you didn't see them, yes, I did enjoy the return very, very much. Super happy about it. Confusion for me is a word that implies that you try to understand everything around you. I kind of got confused in a more intrigued way, I guess. I tried to, like I always do, I guess, with stuff and life and everything, go with the flow, so to speak. You know, the answer is not here, my friend, the answer is here, kind of way. That doesn't mean that I understand everything, but it doesn't mean also that I try to understand everything. Is that an answer? I hope so. Dark Revan, which are the plot lines you would like to have seen more about, and which one less? Oh, I would like to have seen more with Mr. C, more with Agent Cooper. I think we saw him in part 16 for a short while, and then we saw him in part 17, and then I didn't think we saw him very much in part 18. I would like to have seen Hank. I love Hank. Hank is the maintenance guy from South Dakota in Ruth Davenport's apartment building. He was just an intriguing character for me, funny and nervous and what the hell? Also, I am wondering. We found out that the dossier that Milford and Briggs put together was found in the basement storage. What if Hank had something to do with? I am not sure. Either way, Hank was a good character for me. Beulah and Otis. Mr. C, Mr. C. How you? It's a world of truck drivers. I just love those two. I would like to have seen Tammy, but in a different kind of way. I think that we got enough screen time with Tammy Preston, but I don't think that she was given the opportunities that I would like to have seen her in. One exception is when she is questioning Bill Hastings. It doesn't add up for me quite, the way that she's portrayed in The Return and the way that we know her from the final dossier, but also, of course, The Secret History of Tom Hicks. Speaking of Bill Hastings, also a favorite character of mine from The Return. I would like to have seen more of him when he died. If you saw my reaction video, I was pretty sad. Sarah Palmer, I couldn't get enough of her and her story. And also Leland Palmer. Leland Palmer was such a brief character, just those 2 times, and find Laura. What would I like to have seen less? People may gonna kill me, but Wally, no, didn't do anything for me. Steven, it was nice to see Gersten again, but because she was involved with Steven, and I don't know, no, I don't mind him too much. The people at the Roadhouse sometimes felt like they were given a lot of time. And also this one, I think people are gonna hate me for, but the girls, Sandy, Candy, and Mandy, I had wished that they would have been turned into something more interesting, but they didn't. James Ailis asks me, what was Bad Cooper's motive for the return? That is a really good question, because motive is intention, and intention makes me think about what Hawk said about the fire, intention behind the fire. I think the fire is somewhat a metaphor for what everyone wants to achieve in the return. But what is the intention behind the fire? And that's your question, I think. So he says, I don't need anything, I want. And what does he want then? Well, like Wyndham Earle in season 2, Mr. C wants power. Wyndham Earle wanted power by finding and get the powers of the Black Lodge, which I think was a mistake. Like him, I think that Mr. C, what he wants is to find the White Lodge. In some way you can say that season 2 is about finding the Black Lodge, and the return is about finding the White Lodge in some way. He finds the White Lodge, but he gets trapped and doesn't get what he wants. Looks like he wants to go to the Palmer house. What about the Palmer house? What is it in the Palmer house that he wants? I am not one of those people who will say that Sarah Palmer is Judy or is possessed by Judy. I know this is a very popular theory. What I do think is that there is something in the Palmer house, in lack of a better word, portal or something that will change according to who comes to approach it. I believe that because of the sound in the kitchen. If you hear it several times and listen beyond the glass bottles, then you actually hear the electricity there. Mr. C's intentions for the return is to find the White Lodge and access its powers, but he didn't succeed, did he? Like Wyndham Earle didn't. Marco Secchi asks me, what do you think the little boxes in the return meant? Another question from Arcaneful. What do you think about Buenos Aires scene? What was that about? And Mario D says, I quote this question: if there's one thing I really couldn't get my head around in the return is the role of the metal box. What's going on there? Well, I tell you my version of what's going on there anyways. The box is a communication device. I think we could all pretty much agree on that. But what does it mean? We see it blink sometimes. First time it doesn't do anything more, but the second time it shrinks down and transforms into a lump of metal, white metal. In June of 2017, in my Alchemy and Twin Peaks article, I wrote about this metal that the box turns into once, because it could be silver, it could be mercury, and silver is connected to the moon in alchemy, and the moon in alchemy is connected to spirituality and magic, and mercury, which I find interesting, is connected to communication, magic, and transmitting of information, which is exactly, I think, what's going on there in the box thing. I think that it's absolutely connected to Phillip Jeffries. He was in Buenos Aires and he disappeared there. It could be, I say it could be, that he is trapped inside of this device, just like Josie was trapped inside of the drawer knob of the Great Northern. Then I hear you ask, he was in that teapot kind of thing. Well, was he? We don't know. We didn't see him. We heard him. Mr. C, if I have to argue, didn't see him. Mr. C went into a room number 8. The wall kind of disappeared and it just saw him, and it never got close to the device that somehow is Jeffries. Later, Cooper and Mike went another way. I've written about this too. In the words of Gordon, Jeffries really doesn't exist anymore. I think there's a possibility that Jeffries got trapped somewhere where it's impossible for him to get away, floating in time and space, somehow communicating with the other side, with the real world, so to speak, by this communication device in Buenos Aires. Notice also the bowl that this device is resting in, and the sound that we hear in Ben's and Beverly's office at the Great Northern. That sound that later turns out to be Mike's kind of calling sound in the Great Northern basements. That sound for me directly was a Tibetan singing bowl sound. It's perfectly formed. You play on the bowl like this and it makes that sound. For me, that device in Buenos Aires looks like a Tibetan singing bowl. What to make of that is up for debate, but if you speak of communication, I argue in one of my articles that I wrote that Mike is communicating to the real Cooper, so to speak, by that sound, also known as Tibet. That's my way of thinking. Right, so the next question is from Okami Senpai. Do you think Jeffries is trapped somehow in space-time? If I stop there, yes, I do. Knowing that Cooper will ask for Judy in the future, and his revelation about Judy will cause so much damage in the reality continuum, is he somehow stuck in this is it future or is it past effect? How to answer this? I'm not sure about if I agree with that second part of the question, but I do think that Jeffries is stuck somehow between space and time. We can see as early as in Fire Walk With Me that Jeffries is unable to control his own passages through space and time, and that he is confused about it. However, he is more stable in that he has a stronger connection to objects that he can use to communicate to others, like device box in Buenos Aires and slash or the teapot kind of thing at the Dutchman's, which in itself is out of reality, so to speak. I hope I make sense here. It's Twin Peaks. So the second half of this question: do you think that season 3 is just a trap of the Black Lodge for Cooper, And is he stuck forever in the lodge trying to save Laura again and again? Well, I do think that he is kind of stuck in a loop somehow, or that he got stuck in a loop. I don't think it's a trap by the Black Lodge to lure Cooper into anything. However, I do tend to think that there's something to the idea of Cooper being stuck in a loop that is partly caused by himself, actually, of making his own mistakes one after the other, time and time again, so to speak. But I don't think that the intentions of the Black Lodge or the entities connected to the Black Lodge are evil. Next question. Gabriel Ferreira. Sorry, butchered your name. Billy is the key to understanding everything in season 3. No, not for me. He isn't. He's mentioned more times than other characters that we're not sure about who they are, but we have a Paula, we have a Paul, we have a Mary, we have a lot of characters being mentioned by people, and we don't really know exactly who they are. And for me, Billy isn't the key to understanding season 3. I don't think there's a key to understanding the return. I'm not trying to look for a key to understand everything. I don't think there's such a thing. And I'm not trying to find it if there is, but I don't think there is. Good answers. My answers are like top notch. You understand everything now. The next question is close to my heart because it's about Sarah Palmer. Chris XXX. When Sarah Palmer bit out the trucker's throat, why do you think she didn't even get one spot of blood on her? Do you question the reality of what we are seeing? I always question the reality of everything that I am seeing, especially if I'm not wearing my glasses. I do question everything that I see. The fireman and Senorita Dido and the way that Richard died and the woodsman and Phillip Jeffries in a teapot kind of thingy. Not everything in the Return or in the Twin Peaks universe is to be taken as fact or realities. I do think that Sarah Palmer did kill that man, but I'm not sure that she did it in the way that we saw her do it, if that makes sense. I didn't find it at all troubling or concerning or strange that she didn't get blood on her when that happened. I'm not sure that it's not a metaphor of some kind. That was the way that we were shown what was happening, and that might not have been the representation of what did happen. Maybe there was no physical contact. Clearly, Sarah Palmer has got a lot of metaphysical powers within her, even though she's not Judy. But she was absolutely the girl with the moth frog. That doesn't make her evil, and that doesn't make her good. It makes her human. I would be fucking pissed off if someone made that comment to me in a bar. It have happened. I mean, I'm a woman, and I think everyone who is as well knows what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean that I kill people, but for Sarah, I think she is burdened by so much grief and suffering in her life, in combination with that she actually absolutely has got some otherworldly powers within her. That for me is enough explanation for why she didn't get bloody. Anton Binder is asking me, in your head, where is Audrey at the end of the Return? Well, she is somewhere in the frontal lobe. Audrey Horne. I was rewatching my reaction videos a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed that I was very confused actually about Audrey Horne. I don't think a dream, like she's sleeping and in a dream and she's a coma and she's dreaming, which you don't do, by the way. I do think that it could be like a daydream if she's in a mental hospital. This is what I wrote. Maybe I should just tell you what I wrote about that. The effects of having been violated by an entity may have caused her to develop some kind of out-of-body, out-of-mind PTSD of some sort, like also with Diane. I think it could also be like a bad dream. Something is happening and you have to call someone, and it's really, really, really important. In the dream, you're trying to dial the number on the phone and it just isn't working. You dial a 2 and there's a number 3 instead, and you try again and again and again and again, and it's just a nightmare. And it's kind of the same scenario over and over and over and over again. That's the way I think about Audrey. You know, all those scenes with Charlie before they get to the roadhouse, if they do, it's all about who put their coat on or not, and who is ready to go and not, standing in the hallway and still don't go, and it's like trying to dial those numbers and it doesn't work. Extremely frustrating situation for Audrey. It's not a good place. It's a big possibility that she is at the mental hospital or stuck inside of her own head, maybe. Just like Annie Blackburn is described in the final dossier. What was the purpose of Cooper and Diane next day, Linda and Richard having sex? Thank you, No Time, for the question. Of course, if you read The Secret History of Twin Peaks, you came across Aleister Crowley and Thelema and the sex magic kind of thing. That is a thought that, of course, entered my mind and then kind of exited as well. But what I think it's a transformation ritual to get into yet another dimension, and by that I mean that they already passed once in the car. I get vibes from the glass box and Sam and Tracy. Mr. Todd and Mr. C was working together. Tell her she's got the job that Mr. Todd is saying. I still kind of think that it might be Tracy that he is referring to, so that she would go in to have sex with Sam. Fear and love open the doors. I think that's a vibe that I get with Diane and Cooper, or maybe Richard and Linda. It could also be that they try to, so to speak, revert the fact that Mr. C raped Diane. And I've written a lot about that transformation. It doesn't happen overnight for Cooper, and I'm pretty sure about that. It happens when he leaves the door. That's when it happens for him. As always, I put the article link in the description for that one as well. Phil Adams asks me, why didn't Cooper stop and make a telephone call to Gordon when he got to the whatever it was he got to after he and Diane crossed over? I mean, the Gordon in that reality would likely know as much about whatever was going on as Cooper, maybe more, instead of him just driving blindly through the night to Twin Peaks. Okay, so why didn't he just call Gordon to get help in that situation? First of all, Cooper, if it even is Cooper, I am not sure about that. If it is Cooper, it's a different Cooper for sure. You could see that when he got to Judy's in Odessa. He was not the Cooper that we know. He was too into his own mission at that point. And that wasn't the FBI mission that he was on right then. He was on a personal mission. No one asked him to try to go back in time and save Laura and everything like that. It was his idea. It was his mission. I think that he thought about it for 25 years in the Black Lodge. However, he didn't learn from his mistakes, unfortunately. He was too much into his own mission, and that's one of the reasons he wouldn't call Gordon. The other one is that maybe Gordon just didn't exist in that timeline. Who knows? They are driving through the night, as you said, to Twin Peaks, he and Carrie. But is it Cooper? He says his name, but is it him? Is Gordon even alive, or did he ever exist? You know? Next question. Who plays a phone call to Carrie Page before they leave her home? Who knows? It doesn't seem like she is reacting at all to the phone call. Maybe someone is looking for the man who is in full rigor mortis in the sofa. Where is he? He was last seen with you. I have no idea who is calling. Now we're getting into the tricky ones. Antoinette Lopez asks me, what year was it? Well, it's just like the phone call to Carrie Page. Who called? You know, what year was it? doesn't even matter. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, I just mean that if it's another timeline entirely, which I think it is in some way, does it even matter what year it is? Let's say it's 2015, 1998, you know? Let's say it's 2024. It doesn't matter because it's another timeline. One thing I've been thinking about is something called a grandfather paradox. Imagine yourself going back in time to kill your grandfather. Would that mean that you wouldn't exist, of course, and therefore you couldn't exist to go back in time to kill your grandfather? Pretty mind blowing and interesting. It's an impossible way of thinking in some way. I'm kind of on a similar path when it comes to Cooper and the timeline that they might have ended up in. The last line of maybe everything that we will see ever of Twin Peaks. What year is this? It's just for me a sign that he is completely lost. It's not something we have to figure out. It's more like a sign of, oh my god, I have no clue. What the hell did I do? Where am I? Who am I? What am I? When am I? For me, it doesn't really matter what time it is or what year it is. It's not what he expected, and that's kind of the point. Sorry to say this, but he did fail again. He had a mission that was stronger than his inside spiritual abilities. He didn't trust himself like, for example, Major Briggs did. That's why I think that Major Briggs is the one that we can see in the White Lodge. Major Briggs was always very sure of himself. He was immensely sharp and intelligent, but he's also a spiritual being. The answer is not here, my friend. The answer is here, right? And I think for Cooper, unfortunately, he tries to find all the answers up here. So he definitely knows that there's a difference between knowing only here or only here what's happening and understanding what's happening. But you have to unite the two in order to succeed, and I think that Major Briggs does that, but Cooper unfortunately is too much up in his head. What year is this is, painfully enough, the clearest sign of that confusion. YKMR asks, what do you think about meta theories about season 3? Theories of what people have pointed out about the connection between the show and our world. Do you think Lynch and Frost intended to break the fourth wall? Peter Hansen says, the final episode of The Return featured the real-world owners of the Palmer house. That has to mean something, right? Did Cooper, Laura cross over into our world? Here's what I think about those real-world theories. If we indeed saw our world depicted, then it doesn't make sense to me that we are presented with another Mrs. Tremont who speaks about yet another Chalfont when she is actually called Mary Reaver. When they drive into Twin Peaks and Cooper asks, or Richard or whoever it is, asks Laura or Carrie if she recognizes something, they pass by the Double R Diner, and that's not called the Double R Diner in the real world. That's one thing, and that's maybe the smaller things of the two. The other thing is that I don't think that Frost or Lynch would be very interested in putting the events into, so to speak, our world. It's a mind-blowing thought, but I don't think it's holding water that much. It's more like Frost and Lynch to place the ending in an unknown world. It's not our world, it's not the world that we know, it's something else. That's just a feeling that I have. It's not supposed to be understood in that way, like up here. And that's the whole point. It's another different kind of world. Next question is from Crazy Junk. Do you think that Carrie Page will eventually revert to Laura Palmer? No, I don't, because I'm not sure that they are the same person. I'm not sure that what happened was that Cooper went back in time, saved Laura from being killed by Bob, and ended up in Odessa in Texas and became Carrie Page. I'm not sure that they are the same people. There are theories about time, whatever is it called? Eternalism? Eternalism is a philosophical approach to the ontological nature of time, which takes the view that all existence in time is equally real, as opposed to presentism, in which at least the future is not the same as any other time. I just got into it. My point is, no, I don't think she will revert, because I'm not sure that she originated from Laura Palmer. Bill Sorensen again. Now that you had a year plus to process it, what are your thoughts about the two-part finale? It still feels like it's too easy, so to speak, to kill Bob by punching him in the face or orb. I feel that it's a lot of things that are wrong because it's too smooth, it's too easy, everything is just going as planned and better. Part 17 is way too easy when it comes to the destruction of Bob and what happens at the sheriff's station. It doesn't make sense to me, the role that Hawk is playing, which is kind of nothing. He was the one who said there are things pointing towards the possibility of two Coopers. He is initiated into the spiritual. So it doesn't make sense to me that he would arrive late to the party, so to speak, and to question the fact that it even is not Agent Cooper on the floor, which is Mr. C, of course. I don't think that we see what really happened. I think we see something else. I tend actually nowadays to see it as Cooper's wishful thinking in some way. What also speaks to that feeling that I have is that superimposed face of Cooper wishing that this is what I would want to have happened. You can see in my face that I really don't want to say that because it feels like I don't want to see him fail, but I think he did. And part 18, I think that is what really actually happened. Chronologically, I think that we see the first scene of the return, which is Fireman telling Cooper to remember Richard and Linda. Don't make the mistakes that you did. I think that scene places itself chronologically somewhere in between part 17 and 18. He ends up in the Black Lodge again, and Laura is whispering something to him. The face that he has when she does that is pretty much the face that we can see superimposed during part 17, which makes me feel that part 17 and the happy ending, his construction of events or reconstructions of events after the fact. Maido or Maido MB asks me, do you have a final theory about the whole thing? If you have, what is it? No, I don't have a theory about the whole thing. I think that I explained the key points of what I think about what's been happening. I really tried with this question, so I made kind of a hysterically handsome mind map. My theories or my thoughts about the whole thing. The Log Lady and Hawk, they were on a different path all along, trying to kind of find Cooper again, working parallel to the FBI without knowing it, with the same kind of mystery. When I wrote my humongous article, Invitation to Fear, I write about this weird scene where Hawk is seen walking to Glastonbury Grove and saying that something is supposed to happen here tonight, talking to the Log Lady. If only Cooper would have been taking Laura Palmer's advice or trusted her when she said, you can go out now, he would have been facing Hawk instead of Diane, apparently much later. He would have been greeted by Hawk when he exited Black Lodge very early in the return, but he hesitated and stayed, and a short while later he said, when can I go? Which is like, why don't you trust her? And she actually looks a bit disappointed. It's so hard for me to just, go through this very quickly because I've been writing like extended essays about these things. I hope you will find them and read them if you're interested. Cooper didn't learn from his past mistakes. I already said that like a million times. Sarah is not Judy. Judy is more of a metaphor. It's described as a species of entities in the final dossier, which also contradicts the fact that one person should be Judy. But I think that Judy is more of a force, like Gordon is describing it. Portals are more common than we thought. Different kinds of portals leading to different kinds of places. We have the Richard death trap, so to speak, which was intended for Mr. C, of course. We have more kinds of portals, much more than we saw during season 1 and 2. We have the vortexes, we have them in different places. We have them up in the air, as in London. Also, check the description. We have the glass box, which is also up in the air, but extended outside of the building so that it could just capture whatever comes through. We have underground portals. Something that I also think about a lot is glitches and stuff that doesn't really make sense. Like, for example, when the guy runs into Double R Diner and screams, "Has anyone seen Billy?" And after that, the whole set is kind of changed. Everyone is sitting in different places, and the only one who really seems to acknowledge that is Shelley. Kind of a sign to the viewer that we have some kind of strange glitches in space and time. When Phyllis Hastings is murdered by Mr. C, her body is shaking like it's a glitch. Especially during the first part, there's a lot of people saying there's something wrong. Both entities within the Black Lodge, but also like there's something wrong with James, someone says at the Roadhouse. I mean, there's a lot of people saying there's something wrong. It's like if we are sent a message that if nothing is as we would expect it to be, there's something wrong with everything. I think that the final dossier is confirming this when it comes to history being changed and people's memories are changing. Albert says that he's starting to remembering stuff like Jeffries appearing at the FBI headquarters, which is something that he absolutely should remember forever, but he says that he's starting to remember it too. Reality is a glitch. That's not a theory. These are thoughts that I have, or overall thoughts. The black fire is a very important metaphor for death or disease, of course. You can see it everywhere. The young people are diseased and behaving irrational and sickly, and people have a cancer. The room above the convenience store is blackened, literally blackened. The woodsmen are like the woodsmen from Fire Walk with Me, but they are blackened and they're drooling oil, like scorched engine oil. You can see it kind of everywhere. And I think it's due to cracks in time and space. It might seem anachronistic, but the things that Cooper makes happen in the future, is it future or is it past, kind of affects what we see in the past. He changes history, which makes the past and the present full of glitches and stuff that is not making sense. Gabrielle asked me, did you feel like the return was something bigger than it looks, and Lynch presented clues and information about many things in life? Sometimes I have the impression that I'm watching something sacred with Gnostic and metaphysical insights. My very short and clear answer to you, Gabrielle, is yes. I also feel that I'm looking at something which is like a vast ocean of stuff that is possible to tie into the stories, but you cannot see them within the story itself. You have to look for them, but there are connections to just about everything, and we can thank Mark Frost for a lot of that stuff, and those are the things that I am extremely intrigued about. So I agree with you. This last question from Brett Williams, maybe the hardest one. What is your favorite episode of the 3 seasons? Oh shit, Brett. To be honest, many episodes contain both the, so to speak, worst and the best. And when I say worst, I mean things I don't particularly care for, like little Nikki, but even worse, I think, Evelyn Marsh and stuff like that I'm not very fond of. However, I do love the pilot. The characters of Twin Peaks are presented for the first time naturally, and we can see so many great examples of how they are presented. We get to know them in such a great way, and I just love that. Then I love episode 16, Arbitrary Law. That's the episode where Leland Palmer dies, which is a fantastic performance by Ray Wise. Jesus, I mean, I almost cry every time I see it, and I have goosebumps every time I see it, and it's just amazing. And what follows after that, Briggs, Cooper, Albert, Sheriff Truman, and Hawk, just trying to figure out what was happening. Episode 2 of season 1, Zen, or The Skilled Catch a Killer, is fantastic. Albert is introduced for the first time with two guys, tough guys in sunglasses, and Lucy is like, doing that kind of thing. It's the best. It's where Cooper is dreaming, and we see the Black Lodge and all those things for the first time, which is of course extremely remarkable and fantastic. Also, part 1 from The Return, because I will never forget the feeling of watching it or waiting to see it, and the way that it just takes us on a journey between completely new places, and the things that happens in Buckhorn, and the glass box, and Sam and Tracy, and what happens with Cooper, and he's still in the Black Lodge. First thing ever for more than 25 years. It's really special to me. I have been talking a lot more than I planned to do. I didn't really plan, but whatever. I really hope that you got something out of it. Naturally, I've been referring a lot to stuff that I've been writing about for 25yearslatersite.com. Go there and read the stuff that I referred to. I will put the links to the things that I'm talking about in this video in the description. I think this is it for now. My cats are demanding my attention, and yeah, as you can hear. Thank you for asking me every question that you did, and thank you for watching. I will see you in another space and time reality. Meanwhile.